I wanted there to be more. More what? I don't know. So hi, my name is Talia. I love books. I love bandanas. I am so glad you're at my channel today. We're going to be talking about what I have read so far in February. We're at February 18th now, I think, as of filming, and I've only completed 3 books, which is kind of behind track for a normal month for me. But it's because at the same time I was reading 3 books that really kind of stressed me out. There was like just some really high highs and some really low lows for me in these books. So we're gonna be chatting about those today. And I think we'll start with my NetGalley pick first. So I read No Place Like Home by James Bird. This was a NetGalley pick for me, and it was in the middle grade category. And our main character, Open, he is homeless, and he's living with his mom and his brother in their car, and they've been kind of gradually moving across the country, and they are trying to get to his uncle's house in Southern California. So they're kind of moving around, and they are like trying to get enough money to get gas and then go to the next place, and they're kind of moving between shelter to shelter and parking lot to parking lot, and that's the premise of the story. So I really liked the idea of the story. I thought this was great. We can kind of get like empathy, put ourselves in homeless, like the shoes of people that are homeless, particularly children, because there are a lot of people in our country that are homeless, including children. So liked it to begin. I like the main character, Open, was really likable. He pretty quickly gets this like sweet little dog that he's bonded with and taking care of, which I really enjoyed. It kept me interested in that I wanted to know if they were going to make it to California and figure out how to survive and get off the streets. So it kept me involved. And I think reading it as an adult, this book was okay. It was okay. It was fine. It was a decent story. I will say the fact that this is middle grade raised some concerns for me. And the reason is that it had an overall like very just negative tone to it. And I understand. And I will say this is a book where I should have read the author's note first, because the author's note is in the back of the book. And when you read the author's note, you realize that the author actually was homeless at one point, and you know, as a kid, and shares some of these similarities to the author. So I feel like knowing that, if I read it again, I would maybe have a little bit more empathy for the direction he was trying to take. However, I feel like the way he portrayed Open in this story and his mother, it was just they had a very negative worldview. They were very cynical about a lot of topics, and I feel like it kind of went on the attack at a lot of different topics. So everything, so Open and his family, they are Native American. So the main topic throughout the book is how, you know, white people took the land from Native Americans, which happened, you know, so I understand how that is. If you're a Native American, you will have really negative feelings about that, and obviously that's something we are trying to rectify and you know, teach accurately what happened. I just feel like it could have, being a middle grade book, it could have been done in a much more gentle way. Like, it's just openly like the cavalry are coming for us currently, like all the white people hate Native Americans, and the reason we're homeless is because we're Native Americans, and everything's just against us, was the vibe it had. And that wasn't just the only thing it was against. It was, you know, anti-Christians. It had negative things to say about just like the system in general, the homeless shelters. Like it just said negative things about everything. I'm very anti-police. One quote was like, "Protect and serve, they do not." So just very like, it just had a very negative tone. So I appreciate like all of these topics like that need to be talked about, and especially for like our children. Like, yes, we don't want to shelter our children from all of this. We want to have conversations with our kids about all these topics so they grow up and understand like the world and can make better choices than the people did in the past, you know what I mean? And are currently making. Like, we want to raise good human beings. But I don't feel like this book, I feel like it more, instead of just educating, was just kind of promoting just feelings of anger and feelings of hate. And again, I don't want to make light of it, because I think the author like has validity to the things they were saying in this book. I just think that the way it was portrayed, like using a more gentle approach, a less angry approach, maybe sticking to a couple topics, a couple things that you want to talk about, for a middle grade book would be more effective than the way this book was written. An example is Amari and the Night Brothers. Like, you guys know I love Amari and the Night Brothers and Amari and the Great Game. And they tackle some difficult topics in that book, but it's done in a way that is digestible and makes you see the other side without being like just angry. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's so many topics that need to be talked about, but when it's approached from a subject of like, this is angry, we don't like this, we don't like this, we don't like this, it just, for me, it shuts down conversation, and it just kind of is like, you're just angry, you know what I mean? And I don't learn being shouted at, and I don't think a lot of other people do either. So that's what I have to say about that. I mean, I did like a lot of parts of it. Another couple things is like, his mother, it's alluded that she's leaving them alone at night and going out and doing something that is alluded to as being like prostitution, which I don't necessarily want my kids to read in a middle grade book. And his brother is also pretty abusive to him, like hurting him, beating him up, and like the mother doesn't really do anything to like stop this. So yeah, just things like that. For me, it's a pass for middle grade. If you want to read it as an adult, it's an okay story. Kept me engaged. I thought the end was okay, but it's a pass for me as a middle grade book. So yeah, I will not be recommending that to anyone with kids anytime in the future. So yeah, that was the first book I read, and this is a tough video for me. You guys know that I don't love saying negative things about books. I think people put their heart and soul into these books, and it's hard for me to be like, I hated that, you know, but it is what it is. I gotta be honest on my channel. So, okay, let's do this one next. So The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennet. This was a group read, but I kind of like missed the group read because it was supposed to be read in January, and I just didn't get to it until this month. So kind of read it by myself. I know Chatty, the Mad Chatter, and Tara from Tara Talks Books. I think, who else read this? I can't remember, but I'm gonna put their names in below when I remember. Again, I kind of missed the group read. It is what it is. So this was my first Brit Bennet book, and again, there was things I really liked about it and things I did not like about it. So the premise is that there's two sisters, twin sisters, and they grow up in this town called Mallard. And Mallard is a Negro town, but it's Negroes that are basically like very, very light skin. So light that they look white, but they're still black. So right off the bat, I was like, this is really interesting. Like, this is, you know, this is just a really interesting premise of a book. And the twins end up running away, like, when they're, I don't know, 17, 18-ish. And they run away from their town and go out into the world. And then they separate. And one twin marries a black man and has a black daughter and ends up going back to Mallard and continuing in the way of, like, her town, and the other woman decides to pass as white. So she goes and convinces everyone that she's white and ends up getting married, has a white daughter, and we kind of go from there. So things I liked, you know, it's funny, like, I didn't have strong feelings about like the racial lessons in this story. I thought they were good. I really, really disliked the sister that went and passed for White. I just really didn't like her character at all. And for me, that really like pulled down the rating of the book because I didn't like her the whole time and there was really no redemption for her. Like, I feel like it could have been done in a way where I was made to like her more at the end if she had made different decisions. But really, I really hated her. She did and said terrible things and was just super racist throughout and like abandoned her people, abandoned her mother, abandoned her sister. Like, she was just terrible. I didn't like her at all. So for me, I think that was the big negative of this book for me. I feel like there was lots of characters that were super likable. And a big surprise for me was there was a relationship between, so Desiree is the daughter that ends up coming back to her town and has the daughter who's Black. There ends up being like a great transgender representation in this book. And it's funny because I don't typically like seek out transgender representation, and I was thinking after I read this, I was like, that was so good. Like, this was done in such a good way. And the reason it was because it took the opposite tactic of No Place Like Home. Like, it wasn't angry, it wasn't in your face, it wasn't like yelling at you. I feel like particularly in the United States of America, we like to like yell at each other a lot. And there's two very distinct, like, liberal side, conservative side, and the liberal side is like, this is the way it is, you have to accept this way. And the conservative side is like, no, this is the way it is, you have to accept this way. And we just like scream at each other a whole bunch. And like, and when you watch the news, like, it's like the extremes of all the situations of how the people can't get along and hate each other, and like how this side's right or this side's right, depending on like which news outlet you are looking at. And for me, like, that just shuts me down. Like, I barely ever watch the news anymore. Like, my husband tells me the things that are important that are happening, but I can't handle like the anger and negativity that are pushed upon us in our media, and it makes people just completely turn off. And it rips families apart, and no one's able to have legitimate conversations and see eye to eye on anything. And it's just a hot mess. So anyways, tangent. The transgender representation in this book was just done really well. So we have a transgender male named Reese, and he ends up being in a relationship with Jude, who's the daughter in this story. And it just really made me empathize with how challenging it would be to be transgender in general. And Reese was very like quiet, soft-spoken, just doing his thing, trying to live his life the way he felt like he should be living it. And just, I just loved their relationship. I thought it was so good. It made me it just made me think a lot about what it would be like to be in a transgender person's shoes. And I love when books can make you do that. Like, whether you agree or disagree, like, we don't need to fight and yell at each other. I feel like Brit Bennet just did a great job portraying that, relationship in just a really beautiful way. I thought it was awesome. So that was probably my favorite part of that book. So it's like she wrote the book for a completely different purpose, and that part was okay, but I really hated one of the characters. And I think that this relationship actually was something that really made me be like, oh, like, I like what Brit Bennet did here. I felt like it was well done. And if we don't have like empathy for people that are different than us and see different than us, like, how are we gonna relate? Like, we can throw stones and be like, you are doing this wrong and you are doing this wrong, and it'd be a hot mess. Or we can be like, hey, we are all made by the same creator. How about let's love our creator and love each other and go from there. Like, that's what I have to say about that. So, big tangents today. Man, I'm rambling. Let's move on. We're never gonna get done with this video. Okay, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was my second book by Zevin. I read The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery? I think it's Fickery. A couple years ago, and I really liked that. This was kind of a disappointment for me as well. I wanted there to be more. More what? I don't know. So we have Sadie and Sam. Sadie and Sam meet. Sam is in a hospital. Sadie ends up spending time with him, and they bond over the playing of video games. And then this story kind of follows their future from then into, I don't know, if it ends like they're in their mid-30s or early 40s or something around there. So I knew it was a story about friendship. I knew that it wasn't like a romantic love story. And I didn't really know what else to expect from that. So things I liked about it, the friendship. It was super fun, just seeing them bond over their video games and just hearing kind of about the creative process and what goes into making video games. It was just super interesting. I did not love how the whole thing was executed though. I feel like there's all these big gaps where they're like, we're friends and now we're not friends, and we're friends and now we're not friends, and it kind of happens over and over throughout the story. And again, I feel like this was on more than, like, the fault was on one character more than the other, and it made me not like them and not respect them. And I feel like they were pretty hypocritical too, because like one small thing would make them be like, oh, I'm not talking to you for 2 years, like literally 2 years, when they could just go to the other person and like, hey, let's talk about this and work this out. But then other people were like super abusive to them, and it was like, oh, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, it didn't make sense to me, and that part of the story wasn't believable. That being said, the parts where they were getting along I really enjoyed. And one of the secondary characters actually ended up being my favorite character, and I think this was done on purpose. And yeah, no spoilers, but I liked that portion of the story. And yeah, I feel like this had some good lessons on friendship, and I didn't like one of the friends, so that makes it kind of tough to say that you loved the read when you did not love half of the points of view from the story. So yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like there was something else I wanted to comment on for this one. No, I just feel like it was a very dysfunctional friendship, and they needed to have like a friend counselor or something help them out, or just be more forgiving and not assume that you know what one person is thinking when they totally aren't thinking that at all, you know, because that was part of their problem, just like total miscommunications and, you know, just craziness. So yeah, that's where I'm at this month. So it's just been kind of a bunch of books that, to sum up, stressed me out. So now I'm reading. I'm getting caught up on The Count of Monte Cristo because I have 10 chapters to read this month, so I'm reading that. And I'm also reading, hang on, Beach Read by Emily Henry, because I needed something light that wasn't going to stress me out. And so far this is doing that for me. It's not a lot of deep thoughts. It's not a lot of like, not a lot of polarizing topics, not a lot of like stressful friendships. Like, it's just cute and funny, and I'm really liking it so far. This is like getting my toes into romance, because I'm watching so many different booktubers that read romance books, and Emily Henry is all over the place, and she has another coming out this year as well. So things are going better. Hopefully the next reviews will be a little more positive. Yeah. So I think that's all I have for today. I hope you are doing well wherever you are. I hope you take some time today to read a good book or two. Maybe not any of the 3 that I just talked about. And actually do read them, because again, they weren't bad books. Like, they were not terrible. Like, they had good things about them. Like, and I've been thinking about them a lot after the fact. And if a book makes you think and makes you feel something, even if you didn't love it, then for me, it's worth a read. So do check them out, and then let me know in the comments how you feel about them, or if you've read them before, definitely let me know, because I want to hear your thoughts on them. Okay, so now go have a good day. If you're having a bad hair day, wear a bandana. Bye.